Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the June 27, 2025 meeting of the Personnel Administration and Higher Education Committee. Earlier this week, I was asked by Chairman Wild if I could pinch hit for him, and I will do my very best to make him proud. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting? Supervisor Etu and Supervisor Mayday on the second. Any comments or questions? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Privilege of the floor, public comment from supervisors, anyone from the public. Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda. SUNY Adirondack, I don't think has a representative here. Many of us have heard from Dr. Duffy and wish her well and wish the college well. Request number 2, items to be discussed by a human resources director, and I see Jackie in the audience. Anything to add to that, Jackie? Thank you. We're moving right along. Number 3 is request to be discussed by the clerk of the board. Amanda, you're on.
Yes, so this is a request to transfer funds in the amount of $45,000 from the contingent account to a newly created budget code A5630 mass transportation contract to cover the cost of CDTA 18B payments, which were not budgeted for in.
Motion to bring this to the floor, please. Supervisor Bean and Supervisor Mayday on the second. Questions or comments for Amanda?
What is that?
May?
Does that have to do with the sign council?
Yeah, I'm gonna let John, I'm just
Okay.
saying that John really has all the information.
We received a letter last year after we entered into our agreement with CDTA from the State Department of Transportation saying that we were required to make quarterly payments of $11,000 and some change, equating to $45,000 a year. It's called an 18B section in CDTA in a district transportation authority. And because we are now in the district, we're required to pay this. Previously, they say it was paid by Glens Falls. We didn't understand it completely, and so we're still probably on the hook for a 2024 payment that we did not make. We're just finally catching up, and we'll pay the $45,000 this year. Probably debate with them on last year's payment, but it is something that we're going to have to continue to make as long as we're a member of the District Transportation Authority. Does that answer the question? That kind of sort of.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't clear on what it goes to, but it's something that's required by anybody participating in their authority.
It's a match. So it's a local match, and we're not even sure what the total amount that Capital District Transportation Authority gets from state or federal as part of this match agreement. So we just know that's our share of probably a larger amount of money that CDTA gets.
And it sounds like it has to be a cash match as opposed to something else in kind or that.
Yeah, it has to be cash.
Okay.
We'll budget for this.
I was gonna say.
Going forward. It'll be in the budget next year.
And then, yeah.
And we didn't know how to make the payment, so we created a transportation budget code, put it in Amanda's area because she makes other payments like corners and things like that. So let's continue to do it.
Good.
Is there can you opt out? Is that what would be the fallout? What would be if you opt out?
So I tried to opt out last year. I'll be honest with
Oh, that's not an option.
you. No, they can come looking for us, and they did.
Okay.
May I just clarify briefly?
Sure.
It's a New York State statute. It's a statute under the New York State Transportation Law. That's why it's called 18B, 18-B is the state statute that sets up the statewide mass transportation operating assistance program. It basically requires the municipalities that participate in a public transportation system to make these payments on an annualized basis based on their level of participation in the system. So there's a formula that's used, ridership, miles covered, that comes up with the number. Our number, as you can imagine, is substantially lower than the other four main participants: Saratoga, Schenectady, Albany, and Rensselaer County.
We have a motion, a second on the floor. Any additional questions? I'll call the question. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. On to item number 4, which is referral from Criminal Justice, Public Safety and Emergency Services Committee, chaired by Supervisor Gerasi. A request from the Public Defender's Office. I know I was part of that meeting. John, do you want to take that or? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, this is a vacant position, third assistant public defender. It does focus significantly on family court issues, and they just realized that in order to fill this with the qualifications necessary, they needed to offer a higher salary, and to make it more consistent with what they're paying the other public defenders and a lot of our other attorneys. That's what they just want to advertise it as that, and they have the funding for it.
Motion to bring item 4 to the floor. Supervisor Bean and Supervisor Mayday on the second. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of approval of number 4, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. On to number 5, which is referral from Legislative Rules and Government Ops from the County Clerk's Office. Carrie Black was here earlier. Thank you, John.
Basically, she has 4, the county clerk has 4 recording clerk positions. One of them is currently vacant, 3 are filled. She would like to create this senior legal recording clerk so that there's some career progression for her other recording clerks. So the 4th recording clerk position that is currently vacant will not be filled, and it will be unfunded. And we'll address that during the budget as to whether it remains on her books as an unfunded position or if it is completely removed from her books. But this gives her a little bit of a hierarchy in her recording clerk and position that people can aspire to.
Motion to bring this to the floor, please. Supervisor Bean, Supervisor Mayday on the second. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question for item number 5. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Number 6 comes from Supervisor Conover's Public Works Committee. It's a request from the Solid Waste and Recycling Department. John, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, they're going to delete the position of auto mechanic at a grade 14, base salary 72,000, so that we can hire another motor vehicle operator at grade 12 with a base salary of 51,000. This is another driver for the trucks they're using to go around and remove the waste containers from the transfer stations.
Motion to bring this to the floor, please. Supervisor Mayday and Supervisor E2 on the second. Questions or comments? Call the question on item number 6. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Request number 7 comes from the County Administrator's Department. And if you could bring that through.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So basically, the treasurer is filling the position of deputy treasurer that was previously held by Rob Lynch, who has now effectively retired. For new employees hired into the county below the position of department head, receive 2 weeks of annual vacation, annual leave that starts accruing on day one, but you can't take leave until you hit the 6-month period. That works fine for people with no additional experience. You're trying to hire in at a senior level. This is a senior position. Though below department head, what we'd like to do is offer the same flexibility that we apply for department heads. Department heads get 3 weeks of vacation up front, and then they begin accruing an additional 3 weeks of vacation a year from their first day, and they can take leave at any time. So we believe this is important to get someone highly qualified with experience for the position.
Motion to bring number 7 to the floor, Supervisor Bean. Thank you. Supervisor Mayday on the second. Thank you. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I will call question number 7. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now the fun begins.
Oh, yes.
We've got a number of agenda items under number 8. These are requests to be discussed by our county attorney, Mr. Elman. Larry, if you would like to highlight where you'd like to go from here.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
I've been called a lot of things, but never fun, so thank you. Under 8A on the agenda, the first is a request for a resolution to approve and adopt the Warren County intern and volunteer policy, which was drafted, reviewed, and approved by the Warren County Risk and Safety Committee. What the Risk and Safety Committee did is they looked at 2 separate policies in the county. One policy was the intern policy governing interns in Warren County, which was a 5-page policy, and then a separate policy that governed volunteers, which was an 18-page policy. Working collectively, they combined those 2 policies and came up with one set of standards and requirements that would apply countywide to all interns and volunteers. And I believe the text of the policies is about 4 pages. So what they've created is easier to follow and compliant. And additionally, they added a waiver for interns and volunteers that they will sign upon starting that process, which is about indemnification, assumption of risk. So what I would offer is what is in your packet as the attachment is the draft Warren County intern and volunteer policy. And there is one correction to the draft policy that's in your packets. If you look at page 3, section C entitled Work Experience Program Participants, there was a request by the Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, who's on the committee, to remove the text after the second sentence and leave the text, which is the last sentence. So the sentence that starts on the 3rd line, the maximum number of hours a recipient or applicant may be required, would be deleted until the last sentence, which would remain, those participating in this program shall be required to execute the risk acknowledgement. So that would be the motion, asking for a resolution to approve the draft intern and volunteer policy with the one amendment to subsection 3C on page 3.
Everyone understands that? Motion to bring this to the floor, please. Supervisor Patchett, Supervisor Bean on the second. Additional questions or comments for our attorney? Okay, hearing none, I will ask the question. All in favor of approval of 8A, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm gonna ask for your forgiveness because I keep referring to the Risk and Safety Committee, but I think it's important to remind the committee members of who's actually doing the work on that committee over and above their normal work responsibilities. And it's the director of the self-insurance, the self-insurance administrator, the director of the self-insurance department, property and casualty risk manager. The two of them have been co-chairing the committee. The deputy administrator from self-insurance, the Warren County Sheriff, primarily the under sheriff, the superintendent of public works, the director of facilities, the director of human resources, the commissioner of social services, the director of public health and patient services, the director of emergency services, the IT director, the assistant county administrator, and we have participation from 3 of the county unions, CSEA, the PBA, and the Teamsters. So collectively, that is your risk and safety committee that continues month after month to bring to this committee for board consideration either new policies, amended policies, or updated policies. Thank you for that. Moving on to number 2, it's a request to approve a new agreement with Charlotte, Pontiff, Stewart, and Rhodes to serve as the county's labor legal counsel for a term that would start January 1 of 2026, and end December 31, 2026, with authority to enter into up to two additional one-year terms upon agreement of the parties. And in your agenda are the hourly rates for the the fixed fees for the 26, 27, and 28 retainer agreement. And additionally, any work outside the scope of the engagement letter, which is included with the agenda package, would be billed at the rate of $250 an hour for principals, $200 an hour for associate attorneys, and I believe legal assistants. I can't remember that number off the top of my head. Legal assistance would be billed at the rate of $150 per hour. So that would be the request for a motion on 8B.
Supervisor, you two would like to make that motion, and the Supervisor Mayday on the second. Questions? I guess I just have one. Funds that are unused, are those returned, or are those able to roll over into the next contract year?
It is a fixed retainer fee on a monthly basis, so that amount gets paid each and every month.
Okay.
And it's an open-ended retainer, which means as much work as is required during that month is provided
Okay,
for that fixed rate. Consistently since I don't want to overstate this, but on almost, my recollection is I do not recall a monthly fee statement showing an amount of hours less than the retainer amount.
okay,
It typically is sometimes substantially more than the
okay. So
retainer amount, but we only pay that fixed monthly fee.
Okay.
And I just want to let the committee know that the law firm approached me before 2025 asking to increase the rates, because the rates had not gone up for 12 years. And we said we could not do it because we were in the third year of a prior resolution and prior agreement. So this is that request for the new contract that we're seeking for the next year and then possibly up to 2 more additional years.
We have this on the floor. All in favor of request number 8B, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
On the agenda, 8C is a request to amend a resolution 375 of 2024, retroactive to January 1st of 2025. And the purpose is to increase the not to exceed amount of that agreement from $13,300 to $27,000 per year. The purpose for that amendment is postage. This contract was the contract with NYSED to perform mail fulfillment services in relations to the annual tax foreclosure sale. We solicited their quote last summer as the new legislation was coming online for tax foreclosures because of the 2024 Supreme Court case that modified the requirements of counties regarding tax foreclosure and surplus proceeds. And the goal was to basically modernize through a contract the printing and notice of all interested parties using NYSED for that purpose. When I prepared the resolution request and the budget for 2025, I did not appreciate that they provided a per unit base core cost for the mailings that through the US Postal Service. And that base cost was not included in the $13,300. That's the bad news. The good news is that with the changes in the statute, this increase from 13,300 to 27,000 will not completely, but largely be recaptured. Because as of the effective date in 2024 of the new statute, we are authorized to now also assess the costs for notice to all interested parties for these mailings. And they're expensive. Not only do you pay the standard rate per envelope for regular mail, but our certified mailings, because of the size and the weight, are about $14 plus or minus each mailing. We had 832 interested parties for 2025, which was also substantially more than what we budgeted for, in part because we had to start the process in January rather than in March, as we have historically done, meaning there was, I think, just more properties in the start of the 25 foreclosure than we've had in past years. So this is a request to go forward on an increased budget not to exceed, well, increased contract not to exceed $27,000, with the understanding that we have the ability to recoup a significant part of that contract through the tax foreclosure process by assessing the cost to the properties. I want to let the committee know that we did not do a great job this year getting that assessment onto the properties because we weren't 100% aware of it. But next year, that assessment will go within a week or two of us receiving a notification from NYSED that the mailings have gone out. There was a time lag there. In that time lag, a number of people paid off their tax that was due after getting the notices and before we realized we needed to assess it back onto the property. So I think we're collecting a little over $10,000 this year as compared to I want to say 13,000 plus or minus.
Motion.
That's the motion.
Thank you. Motion to bring this to the floor, please. Vice President, Supervisor Mayday on the second. Additional questions for Larry? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor of approval of 8C?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moved. Thank you.
8D is an accompanying request to provide additional funding of $11,734.47 to pay the additional postal charges incurred to NYSED from the 2025 tax foreclosure mailings.
Supervisor Etu and Supervisor Bean on the second. Questions? I think we just kind of discussed that a little bit in the previous item. Call the question. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved. Number 8E.
8E is an issue I was hoping as the county attorney to stay away from, which was legislation that has passed and has been the subject of much litigation in multiple parts of the state concerning the even year election law, changing local government elections from odd years to even years. The reason I stayed, I was hoping as county attorney to stay away from that, is because it's been my perception professionally as the county attorney that it is largely a political issue. But last week, I became aware of portions of the arguments that are now going and being briefed to the Court of Appeals, the highest court in the state of New York, that are not necessarily political issues, but arguably legal issues that I have an obligation to make sure the supervisors are aware of to determine whether they seek to take any action or not. Warren County is not a party to the 8 actions that are now have been brought together for one argument in front of the Court of Appeals involving the even year election law. However, and primarily those counties are chartered counties or said differently, counties that have opted out of the county law structure for county government, which is a board of supervisors. So counties that are not following the board of supervisor model and have a legislature and have enacted a charter have pursued this even year litigation on various legal theories. None of which are a concern that I have for Warren County because we are not a chartered county. However, it's come to my attention 2 potential impacts that this statute may have that may not be in front of the Court of Appeals as they globally look at this statute to determine its constitutionality. One of those issues is the impact it would have and its conflict with the New York State Constitution regarding the election of county supervisors from a city within the county. For us, that would be the city of Glens Falls. The New York State Constitution requires that supervisors from a city in a county be elected in odd numbered years. That constitutional requirement conflicts directly with the even year election law. It is not clear that that issue has been presented or briefed to the Court of Appeals because it's not potentially an issue that's covered by chartered counties litigation. The second is the broader impact of the even year election law upon the autonomy and self-government rights of Warren County under municipal home rule law, which is an open issue that has not been reviewed by the Court of Appeals on whether a state statute can amend those portions of the New York State Constitution that created a right for counties to govern themselves on areas which are not wholly controlled or governed by the state of New York. There's a much longer legal discussion on that topic I can engage in with anyone who wants to in my office at the end of today's committee meetings. But for today's purposes, it's really just a question. And the question is whether there is a interest or desire, and I phrased it as this, to give the county attorney the discretion to determine whether to file an amicus curiae brief. An amicus curiae brief is a friend of the court brief. It's a brief that can be submitted by a non-party to assist a court to decide tangential issues or issues that may not be raised directly by the parties, to help the court get a fuller and complete understanding of the issue they're deciding. So whether the county attorney would be granted the discretion to determine if an amicus curiae brief should be filed. Because if the answer to that question is yes, we would need to draft and prepare that if appropriate on or before August 5th, because that's the deadline for filing amicus briefs in that case. That's the entire motion and basis for the motion.
Motion to bring this to the floor, please. Supervisor Mayday. Supervisor Bean, thank you. Additional questions? But
Yeah, what's the level of effort on your office? Things like that, and then also, I mean, is it 40 hours? And then if you had to file one to prepare an amicus and then amicus, and then how do you determine if you need to, you have to contact other non-charter counties to see if they?
That's a great question. We're in the process of seeing if any other non-chartered counties will be filing. I don't have any desire to do what's repetitive
If one's done it.
in nature.
To general.
Got it, okay.
I know one sister county is intending to prepare a brief, but it may not be on those specific issues because that county doesn't have a city wholly within its borders. So there's a number of factors on whether we go for it. There's a good chance that if this committee approves it, that my office would probably start working on it before the board meeting. And then depending on the decision from the board on whether to proceed with it or not, whether we'd finalize it, it's definitely a good amount of work. I don't want to estimate 40 hours, but that, it could be 40, 50, 60 hours, depending if it's straightforward or if we have to do some tangents. And as the committee knows, as a lawyer, I often take tangents. So sometimes we have to cover things we don't necessarily know when we're starting as we get deeper into the issue and deeper into the research. But I would hope that that's not a consideration for the committee. The issue is just really whether to provide the county attorney the discretion to follow, to protect the county, or to make the determination that we're okay and we don't need to do it. In particular, to clarify or to at least ask the Court of Appeals to clarify how Warren County would move forward and other similar counties for their city elections, for the election of county supervisors from the city of Glens Falls. because that does seem to be somewhat of a conflict.
Go ahead.
Mr. Umlin, would it be wise to, reach out to other counties to ask them if there could be some sort of a collaborative effort, to help lessen the workload, or is that just a little bit too challenging to try to coordinate that way?
I don't know that we would agree to do one brief because as
Everybody's gonna have a different opinion.
your attorney has to sign off for your client. So it would be another layer of work to get everybody to agree on what's in one particular
Yeah.
brief. And plus, what we're talking about is out of the 58, I'm sorry, 57 counties excluding New York City. Not all 57 are following the county. Not all 57 have stuck with the Board of Supervisors model provided for in county law. And out of that lesser number, it's only the counties that have a city within their county that would have the same issue, at least on that one first point of our county supervisors who were elected from the city of Glens Falls. So it's a smaller pool, and there's already some conversation occurring, but I doubt that that would be a unified brief.
Thank you. Understood.
Although any counties that want to join on ours, they're more than welcome to.
I've got a question, Larry. I know I'm a county employee, but, what, is there a responsibility to have a conversation with the city of Glens Falls and the Common Council to see where their heads are at on this particular issue? Or I think that's a question that maybe some people would be interested in hearing your opinion.
I don't believe the city of Glens Falls would have much, if any, interplay on the election issue. It's more the Board of Elections and the State
Okay.
Board of Elections, and we've already had discussions with our local board on the concerns that have been brought to our attention regarding that conflict. And as I said, it's an issue of first impression, which means there's just no court that's looked at the issue and decided it yet. Which is what the concern is, that oral argument is going to occur on those underlying cases in September. Which means a decision will almost certainly, well, there's nothing certain. There's a high probability the Court of Appeals is going to provide guidance on the even year election law before election day of this year. Which would leave little time to resolve any conflicts that weren't addressed by the Court of Appeals, specifically the ones I just discussed.
Leaves little time for voters to know if they're voting for somebody for 1 year or 2 years too, doesn't it? Yep. Or 3 years.
Or 3 years.
So am I correct to say to an extent, we don't know if we're running for 1 or 2 year terms for this current calendar year?
Oh, right now, my understanding is, I believe you're running for a 1-year term.
Okay.
Unless the Court of Appeals issues a decision that changes the decision from the lower courts, then maybe you're not.
The rest of the county is running for a 1 year, but it's still up in the air as far as the city of Glens Falls is concerned. Am I correct on that?
I'm not sure I can comment on that.
Okay, all right, okay. Is everyone clear what we're voting on? The way I see it is we're voting to either approve or disapprove our attorney's office preparing and submitting the brief. Am I correct on that, Larry?
Deciding whether to prepare and submit the brief.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
the discretion.
yeah, okay. We're all clear on that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we've got the motion and the second. Any further questions, comments? I'll call the question. All in favor of 8E, say yes, please.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimously moved. Thank you.
I will not say thank you, but
Okay.
appreciate the
We
decision.
will say thank you to you, though.
Yeah.
Under discussion items, the report for insurance reserves payments is unchanged. There have been no additional payments in the month of May made. That report will continue to be updated on a monthly basis. And then I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session under G and H. Under G, it's to address a harassment and discrimination complaint that has been filed under Public Officer Law, Section 1083, as well as Section 105, subsection 1F, regarding matters leading to appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person, and to go into executive session for a litigation update under Section 1051D of the Public Officers Law, as well as Section 108, sub 3, attorney-client communications for one or more of the matters listed under H.
Thank you.
I would ask that the Director of Human Resources
Stick around.
please be permitted to stay for this conversation.
So we have a motion from Supervisor Bean and a second from Supervisor Etu. And before we go into executive session, anything, well, let's go into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.